My friends, we are living at a time when mobile device usage is at an all-time high, and that is only going to increase as we go forward. We will spend more and more of our time on our phones. Simultaneously, we're seeing all-time highs in surveillance, and that is only going to increase as well. And so this begs the question, what is the ultimate mobile Bitcoin wallet, particularly with an eye towards privacy? And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at none other than the Samourai Wallet. Is it really everything its proponents make it out to be? Today we find out. Let's jump in. Welcome back to another video. My name is Ian Major. I'm an entrepreneur, Bitcoin pleb, and all-around raging capitalist, and I have been eagerly awaiting the day that I finally shoot this video. Samourai Wallet is a mobile Bitcoin wallet focused on privacy. They call it the Bitcoin wallet for the streets, and I love that because when you think about hyper-Bitcoinization and the world we want to live in, where you're using Bitcoin on an everyday basis, the interface that conducts that type of activity is going to be your phone, right? And indeed, the reason that I've waited this long to do it is because I'm an iPhone user. And so I have specifically gotten a Google Pixel 4. I've done prior videos, as some of you know, on how to de-Google that Pixel device. I have Calyx operating system running on my Google Pixel 4. And so all of those pieces I wanted to have in place in order to do this video. Samourai Wallet is Android only. That is the catch. But today's going to be a meaty video. We're going to be going into the setup, all the different kind of features and functionality. There's definitely going to be some advanced topics that I probably won't have time to cover in this single video. But I also want to do this thing justice. It is jam-packed with some truly impressive privacy-preserving features. But is it really the ultimate option for your mobile device? Today we're going to find out, so you won't want to miss a thing. For those returning to the channel, welcome back, my friends. As always, it is great to have you. And for those new to the channel, I welcome you as well. 80% of you watching right this moment who are not currently subscribed. So if you like this content, I invite you to consider subscribing. I've got some fantastic topics that are coming up in the very near term that you're not going to want to miss. I cover all manner of things Bitcoin, including tutorials such as this, news, analysis, how-tos. You want it, I cover it. That's as simple as it gets. But without further ado, let's jump in. And I want to first go through just a very brief overview of Samourai Wallet because it truly is a beast. And then we're going to get into the tutorial step by step. Let's jump in. All right, I'm going to try and keep this section brief so we can get into the tutorial, but I think it's pretty important just to kind of lay out a bit of a framework because this wallet is truly packed with features and functionality. So again, rattling off the basics, as we said, Samourai Wallet is a mobile Bitcoin wallet for Android only. It's completely non-custodial, so you remain in control of your keys the entire time. They relay traffic through Tor, which is becoming more common in the leading wallets these days, which is great to see. You can use your own node with Samourai Wallet. They do have their own kind of best practice implementation that's from them, which is called Dojo. There's also Ronin Dojo, which has come out with an absolutely gorgeous plug-and-play Tanto, they're calling it, node. So today we're going to see if I can get my Umbral node connected to it. But suffice it to say, you have support for different node implementations. My node's another one, etc., which is great. You also have a complementary app called Sentinel. Now, I'm not going to be covering Sentinel today, but what Sentinel allows you to do is create any number of watch-only wallets so that you can monitor your balances as well as receive Bitcoin into those watch-only wallets. So for example, you could literally have like 2 Android phones, one of which has no connectivity to the internet at all. And you could have Samourai Wallet on that. And you could set that up as a watch-only wallet in your Sentinel app. And Sentinel also allows you to broadcast transactions that were formed in your Samourai Wallet. And so Sentinel is kind of the key to using Samourai Wallet in a kind of air-gapped fashion if you so wish. And so I'm not going to go into that in today's video. but I might do that in future videos, but I wanted to call it out because that is a nice option. Now, with all that said, I think the three kind of buckets of features that I would probably recommend thinking about to help just orient us as we jump into the tutorial. Number one are the basics, right? Sending and receiving. Of course, any Bitcoin wallet is going to enable you to do this. But, Samourai Wallet also has all the kind of coin control features you would expect, being able to manage your UTXOs. They even have some, more advanced like checks against, dust attacks and things like this. So there's some pretty impressive stuff even within that kind of basic functionality bucket. But that's one. The second is their Whirlpool CoinJoin implementation. Now, I'm not going to go into the gory depths of differences between Whirlpool and other CoinJoin implementations, whether it's PayJoin, whether it's Wasabi. Again, respect to all these different efforts. As a user, it's great to have competition like this. But for those not familiar with CoinJoin, the concept, it essentially obfuscates and severs the linkage between inputs and outputs within a Bitcoin transaction. So imagine looking out your window and seeing a guy on the street. It's really easy to see that guy. He's alone. Now, what if that guy was surrounded by others? And what if they were all wearing, the same mask, the same clothes? It would be really, really hard to spot the guy. And that's sort of an analogy for what's happening in a CoinJoin transaction. You're basically surrounding yourself, you're surrounding your transaction with others that kind of look identical. And so when a chain surveillance firm comes in, it becomes really, really difficult. Like there's just too many combinations and possibilities for them to confidently say that, this output from this transaction is definitely connected to this input. So it becomes a way to obfuscate the go-forward ownership of your UTXOs or unspent transaction outputs. Now, what does this not do? Importantly, it does not erase the past. So you can't go to Coinbase and buy some KYC Bitcoin, KYC being know your customer. So these are exchanges where you're giving away a lot of your personal information. Like Coinbase knows that now. They know that you have bought that whatever amount you have, and best believe they're going to share it willingly with whoever asked for it. Some random bureaucratic, like whoever, they're going to reveal that information. So you can't change the past, but what you can do is introduce a significant amount of doubt around the go-forward ownership of those mixed UTXOs. That's CoinJoin in a nutshell. Again, I've done other videos that you can find where I go into more depth, and I'll try and link those in the description down below. But that is sort of probably like the crown jewel of Samourai Wallet is its Whirlpool implementation. We will talk about some of the nuts and bolts when we get there in the tutorial. And then the final kind of category I would think about are Samourai Wallet's post-mixing spending tools. So once you have mixed your UTXOs through Whirlpool, they have a variety of tools that allow you to spend those UTXOs privately. And this is really important. If you've gone through all that effort of mixing your UTXOs for privacy, you want to make sure you're not recombining those UTXOs and spending those in a way in which you're undoing what you just strove to accomplish. We'll talk about Stonewall 2x, Ricochet, Stowaway. There are a ton of tools that make this, I think, the best in class when it comes to post-mix spending tools, for sure. And I don't think it's close. So there you have it. My expectations are pretty high, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the tutorial and find out whether the app actually lives up to those expectations. Let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so Samourai Wallet. Of course, I will link all of these key URLs in the description down below for you to take a look at. But as you can see, a Bitcoin wallet for the streets. What we want to do is come over to the download section at the top. Quick shout out, they do have terrific documentation. Really impressed with the documentation that's available. So check that out as well. But we'll go over to download. And again, I would recommend, the whole point of this is to preserve our privacy. And so I would recommend against the easiest kind of Google Play option, because Google Play, records everything you do, right? That's, now you could say, well, I have a throwaway Google account, and you know, that's fine, but like just something to keep in mind, right? And so what we're doing in our case is we're going to be using the F-Droid option. And so this gives us a repository that we can pull in to our F-Droid. Again, F-Droid is an open source, essentially app store, you know, that doesn't kind of track what it is you're downloading or doing, etc. And so I've done a prior video on exactly this if you are so curious. But what we can do is scan this QR code. There's a good FOSS app called Binary Eye, which you can get directly from F-Droid as well, which allows you to scan QR codes. And so that is what I am doing with my Android device. Alternatively, you can go to F-Droid, navigate to settings, and add a repository and type in the following information. You don't have to do the fingerprint, it's optional, but it is good to have that in there. This would be my recommended approach, but regardless, get Samourai Wallet on your phone, and let's go ahead and hop over. All right, so here we are, my friends. I've got Samourai Wallet, as you can see, installed in the top left. I know the background here is Ronin Dojo, but I just thought it looked cooler. So again, we've gone through, gotten it off of F-Droid, and we'll open it up for the very first time. Now, it's saying select network, and so this is nice. Like, you can do testnet and go get some testnet Bitcoin from a faucet. You know, you can obviously do that for free and play around with some of these privacy techniques before, you know, going to mainnet, and so that's nice. For now, though, I will hit mainnet. And it says break free of third-party custody, remain in complete control of your wallet at all times. The perfect toolbox for managing your Bitcoin experience privately. So again, as we discussed, Tor, you've got dust alert. So if someone tries to dust attack you, you know, sending a tiny amount of sats to, you know, your wallet and hope that you don't notice and that you go on to spend those, right? That helps chain surveillance firms, privacy scoring. So it really is action-packed. As we alluded to, you have this offline mode, which allows you to interact with your Bitcoin even without any form of data connection at all. We will not be doing this today, but there are some cool possibilities, either using air-gap transactions through Sentinel, or they even have a mesh network that you can kind of broadcast through. And of course, connect your wallet to your own full Bitcoin node with a single QR scan. So let's get started. Now, the very first thing we're being presented with is to choose a backup directory. This is super important. So choose a good location, you know, obviously that you won't sort of lose. And this is going to be an encrypted backup of the wallet. So it'll be encrypted by a passphrase that we are going to select later. And it will contain, you know, your seed for the wallet and all that good stuff. So this is your backup. Treat it very carefully. All right, so let's just create a dedicated folder for this. Great. We'll allow it. All right, there we go. Would you like to enable Tor? Absolutely. So it'll now initialize Tor. Certainly a best practice. You know, keep in mind this will, of course, all things equal, potentially make certain things run a little bit slower. One other kind of tip is sometimes you'll like open the wallet and you'll see a kind of white loading bar. You want to let that loading bar complete before you do anything. But again, very good practice to have Tor active and enabled. And then it says, would you like to connect to your own Dojo server? All right, gang, a quick note on nodes. So I was going to use my Umbrel node because, you know, if you come over to Connect Wallet, for those of you who have an Umbrel node and are familiar with this, you know, you can choose whatever wallet you want to integrate with. And of course, they have an option for Samourai Wallet. Not only do they have an option for Samourai Wallet, they also have this handy Samourai server app that serves as a Dojo backend for your Samourai wallet. So, you know, you can click on this or just simply go to the App Store and you can see I have indeed installed it. And they have some relatively straightforward instructions, you know, if I were to just open this, for example, on how to connect to the Dojo. So for example, I would basically, I would follow these instructions, and they have additional instructions below for connecting Whirlpool to the same. Now, I'm not going to actually do or show this because I ran into some issues whereby, the first time I went through the app, I followed these instructions, paired up my Umbral node, sent some Bitcoin to my Samourai wallet, and for some reason the balance wasn't updating. So this is indicative of, some type of communication issue where my node wasn't properly, able to pass information that it had queried against the blockchain to my Samourai wallet. And it turns out there seem to be a number of Umbral users that have run into this same issue. Now, admittedly, I do need to update my Umbral. I'm on an old version. Who knows if that'll fix it. But for purposes of this video, I'm just going to basically proceed without connecting my own node. That is not a best practice, but it's not the end of the world. It simply means that you are going to be using Samourai's nodes and servers, right? So again, ultimate setup is always going to be running your own node. So I'm going to likely shoot a future video where I use Ronin Dojo, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. Final note I will mention, again, this could be totally irrelevant if you're not using Umbral, but if you do go the Umbral route and you try and set it up and you find that it doesn't work and you later have to restore your wallet without your Umbral node connected, you may also need to reach out to the Samourai Wallet team to ask them to manually re-index their node. I'm assuming and believe based on their responses that they run pruned nodes, meaning they're not going to scan the whole blockchain. They're going to scan the blockchain for wallets that were created, using their nodes, right? So not ideal all around. My simple kind of takeaway here is that Umbral does appear to pose issues. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm on an older version, but I'm not going to worry about that now. I'll do a future video, and if you're doing this from scratch, I would suggest you first look into Samourai Wallet's Dojo or Ronin Dojo, which are tailor-made for Samourai Wallet. There you have it. And now we are ready to create a new wallet. Now, if you did have an existing seed, you could, of course, restore that, but we will go ahead and create a new wallet here. And we will put a passphrase on this. Now, this is important. This is the passphrase that is going to encrypt the backup that is stored in your file system on your phone. And importantly, you will also want to write this down along with the seed phrase that we will see shortly, which together are going to get you to your funds. If something were to happen, you lose your phone, you need to recover the wallet, you will need this passphrase along with your seed phrase. So, get a pen and paper handy as well. I'm going to go ahead and create a passphrase and be right back. We'll also put in a PIN code. So again, pick something strong. This would be, you're in the street and someone robs you, takes your phone, right? They couldn't get to your funds unless they know the PIN code. All right, the next step, encouraging us to create an offline paper backup. So again, highly recommended. And it'll give you a downloadable PDF template, which I will flash up so you can see what it looks like. So these are 12-word seeds. And this is super useful as well because it also has the derivation paths for the different pieces of the account space in a Samourai wallet. And this has to do with all the different sections we'll discuss in the context of Whirlpool and coin mixing. And so even if you're not using this worksheet, I would encourage you to still download it just so you have the derivation paths. And then of course you want to note down your passphrase, your PIN, and your seed, ideally in separate in separate places, so that if someone has one, they don't have the other. But you can do it either way. You can use this worksheet or just write things down. But I wanted to call out the derivation paths in particular because if you were to need to restore into some other wallet software, you would need to have these derivation paths. So let's go ahead and proceed. And we've got our 12 words. So we're going to write these down and be right back. And as you will see, it is initializing the wallet And we also have this little pop-up, this little robot guy. What is this? So claim your Paynim bot. What this is Samourai Wallet's implementation of BIP 47, which is essentially, BIP is just Bitcoin Improvement Proposal. And what this is it allows for a reusable code that behind the scenes manages and reuses addresses in such a way as to where you don't have to kind of share your address out, right? Like if I wanted to send funds to a friend, I would have to send the address to that person, maybe through an encrypted messaging app, right? And therefore I have to trust that the messaging app is not going to, have a leak and, my addresses get out. Again, there's nothing wildly sensitive about your addresses, but it is a hit on your privacy, because if someone knows your address, they can go and see how much balance is associated with that address and also see the history of it as well. And so in a nutshell, Paynim basically allows you to conduct any number of payments with someone else in a way in which you don't have to kind of reveal or share your addresses. So it's just yet another kind of step in protecting your privacy. I find it pretty surprising that, as far as I know, Samourai is certainly the most well-known wallet that has implemented an actual, operational form of BIP 47. And so this bot, this little like cartoon figure, is a unique representation of your wallet. So, no one will ever get this exact same, little robot. And that's just a visual, it's just so you can visually associate. Again, maybe you have some friends who have a Paynim and, it kind of becomes a sort of avatar. You'll probably see a lot of these on Twitter if you've ever wondered what those are. They are Paynim bots. So we'll go ahead and claim it. And so it says, claim my Paynim ID and add my public Paynim code to paynim.is, which I will flash up just so you can see. This is just sort of the main kind of web page for it. I'll say yes. And so that's cool. So I can add people here. Again, I'm not going to dive too deep into Paynims, but that is a really cool feature, and it's going to come back when we discuss some of the post-mix spending tools. So let's come out of that. So here we are. We've got our blank sort of wallet. So let's explore a bit. So we've got this little icon in the top left that allows you to switch over to your kind of Whirlpool area. So this is kind of the post-mix space of your wallet. I'm going to cover what that means in just a moment when we actually go through Whirlpool. Let's come back. You've got this little kind of Wi-Fi option where you can toggle some of your connection settings. This little kind of square, dotted square just basically brings up a camera for scanning QR codes, right? And then the three little dots you can click on, and you have a variety of other options. So we'll come back to some of this as we go along. But pretty clean interface, and obviously the main piece that we have at the bottom right is this blue plus icon. And so we can click this and see the four main things that we can do. We already talked a little bit about Paynims, and so I probably won't come back to that in today's video. But then we have our two main functions at the bottom, send and receive, and we also have Whirlpool. So let's get going with receiving some funds. So I'm going to go to the receive option. All right, and of course we are presented with an address. And so what's nice about Samourai Wallet is it is going to never reuse addresses, which is a key best practice. And so it's just going to take care of that for you. You have a QR code that's scannable. You have a address, of course, that you can copy and paste. And the little kind of icon here you can use to share it. But again, I'm basically just going to open up another wallet on my other phone, and I'm going to scan the QR code. You also have this advanced option where you can hard code a certain amount of sats that the receive kind of request is for. And then you can also select different address types. as you can see. So we'll leave native SegWit for now as a best practice. And I'm basically just going to send some Bitcoin, and I'm scanning the QR code with my other app. I'm just using Blue Wallet. Right, so let's let that transaction confirm, and we'll be right back. All right, so we can see our 350,000 sats have come in from our other wallet. Now, you can always click on any of these transactions and get more information about them. You can also click on the total balance at the top and drill into individual UTXOs, which is nice. But now we want to go to Whirlpool. Now that we've received some funds, we want to go and mix them to sever that sort of go forward linkage as we were discussing earlier. And I'm really excited for this. This is the new UI for Whirlpool that they have just really released a couple weeks ago. Note in this top right, you have these 3 dots for a Whirlpool S code. Those are just discounts they run occasionally. So be on a lookout for that from their Twitter account. But as you can see, Whirlpool breaks the past links of your Bitcoin from their future activity to help protect your privacy. Whirlpool is entirely non-custodial, meaning you keep your keys at all steps in the process. So go ahead and get started. And as we see our UTXO here, we can go ahead and select that for mixing. So go ahead and hit next. And now this is really important. So we're selecting our pool. There are different pool sizes depending on the amount of Bitcoin you wish to mix. You can see there's a 0.5 Bitcoin pool, 0.05, 0.01, and as we will see, a 0.001, which is the pool we are going to select. You'll see that there is a fixed pool fee depending on the size. And you can also give a general priority at the top here to what is called the TX0, or the initializing transaction that's going to split your UTXO into the denomination of your pool. So in our case, right, none of these other pools are applicable because they're too big for the amount that we're mixing. So we're going to select the 0.001 pool, and that is going to break our UTXO into 3, in this case, 0.001 Bitcoin chunks. It also gives us the miner fee that's going to be associated with all of this. We'll talk more how that comes into play in just a moment. And so that's basically that. There's definitely some things to consider when thinking about the right mining pool. You want to be cognizant that you're not breaking it into so many separate UTXOs that it becomes really difficult to manage. So there's definitely a sweet spot there. But in any case, you then get this playback. So 3 UTXOs are going to be created with this transaction. And so it's going to do an initial on-chain transaction to break my UTXO into the 3 equal-sized amounts. And I can see the breakdown of all the fees, including the miner fee, etc. And so if I hit begin cycle, I can see this call out of doxic change or toxic change. This means the amount that is going to be returned to me that is not going to be mixed, right? Because I've got 350,000 sats, I will have 3 chunks of 100,000 sats, but then I have some remaining. So it's just calling out that is going to be returned to me. I hit broadcast. And so now, after a little bit of time, don't panic if it doesn't update immediately, you will see that this middle bar mixing has been updated. And we also see this remixing section at the end, which allows for free remixes after the initial mix. So that's a lot. While these are preparing, let's talk a little bit more about just that. All right, so I want to go through what we just did using some of Samurai's great documentation, because I think this is really, really important to understand what's happening in this Whirlpool process. So I'm at their kind of Whirlpool basic concepts documentation here. I'll link this in the description. And it goes through and talks about the coordinator that is sort of passing messages that allows all of this. It talks about the pool fees. You can estimate fees using this whirlpoolfees.com. It breaks down what we just saw. But what I want to call your attention to is the Whirlpool accounts. So this is how they use the Bitcoin wallet's account space in a clever fashion to kind of isolate different parts of this process. So if we just really zero in on this diagram, you will see what I mean. So firstly, you have your deposit. This is that like main gray part of the wallet that we received our initial sats into. This is the kind of default account, if you will, that you would receive Bitcoin into from a different wallet. This is also from which you would initiate Whirlpool mixes. Your toxic change, as we saw in that call out, will be returned here after what is called TX0, et cetera, et cetera. And so what TX0 is an initiation transaction that's going to cut your UTXO into those specific sizes, depending on the pool that that you choose. Once that happens, so once that transaction settles, so that'll take a little bit of time, you will then see, as we'll see in the tutorial in a moment, the ability to conduct your first mix. So the premix area in your Whirlpool is where funds are going to sit to join their first mix. As it says, one confirmation is required from that TX0. Now, it's important to understand your UTXOs in premix are probably going to go very quickly, and that is because think of it like a big mixing bowl. You've got different UTXOs in this premix mixing bowl that are waiting for their first mix, and they're going to be joined with 4 other UTXOs that are in a post mix, which we will talk about. And so the premix UTXOs are the ones that are paying the miner fees for the mix. And so because just think about it, like there's probably going to be just more post-mix UTXOs sitting and waiting to be remixed than there are premix UTXOs waiting to be selected initially. And so there has to be at least one premix UTXO in every, maybe it's 2, I'm not exactly sure, don't quote me on that, I'm sure this documentation has it, but suffice it to say, each mix requires there to be new liquidity, i.e. UTXOs that have not yet been mixed, in order to ensure that you're not just mixing and mixing and mixing the same UTXOs over and over again. So it's a really important concept. There's always going to be new liquidity being injected into each mix. And so that is why your premix UTXOs are going to get picked up really quickly and be able to move through their first mix quickly. And those premix UTXOs are also the ones paying the miner fees. Now, once that first mix happens, they will automatically go to your post-mix section of your wallet. Again, we will look at what this looks like in the app in just a moment. And what's really nice is that you could freely remix, forever, right, if you want. Now, the important part is you need to make sure the Whirlpool client is online. So, for example, if you're doing that on your phone, you need to make sure your phone's not going to go to sleep. There's apps to help with that, things like that. But that is kind of the one caveat. The Whirlpool client does need to be sort of open and online, so you can't lock your phone or things like that. There is a desktop GUI that you can download from Samourai Wallets. So I think if I go to products, if I go to the download section for Whirlpool, which makes it, I think, a lot easier. So the desktop GUI, you can, a lot of people, I think, are going to probably prefer to have their laptop or computer not sleeping than their phone, right? For kind of battery life considerations. But just know that you have those options. You can do free remixing as long as you want. You can do it on your phone as long as you leave the phone on and it's not going to sleep. Or you can get the desktop GUI that is quite easy to link to your Samourai Wallet, and the desktop GUI can kind of keep the Whirlpool client alive on behalf of it. So you have those 2 options. And just keep in mind, each of these account spaces has a different derivation path. That's why it's so important to kind of have these written down. If, for example, you had some UTXOs in your post-mix kind of wallet and something happened to your phone and you needed to restore your wallet into a completely different software other than Samourai Wallet, you would need to have this derivation path. So there you have it on account structure, really important to understand. But the good news is, like, this is all happening sort of behind the scenes and under the hood. And you don't have to like necessarily worry about this. I just think it's important to understand it. All right, so indeed we can see TX0, and you can see that reflected in kind of both places here. If we pop back to our mixing, we'll see that eventually it will turn over and you'll be able to get the mixes started. So you have these little play and pause buttons on the right, which you can use to kick things off. It will go automatically if you don't do anything, as long as your phone is again open. And as you can see, it sort of moves through these phases relatively quickly. Like once your UTXO gets picked up for a mix, the mixing process itself goes quickly. I hit accidentally this other UTXO, but you can sort of see the steps. It registers the UTXO input, waits for a mix, joins a mix. It's going to be able to do that relatively quickly because of what we discussed earlier, registering outputs, and then ultimately signing the outputs as well. And so you'll see this process, once it starts, goes quite quickly. And so it'll then move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. So let's skip ahead a little bit until they're all complete. And so we've got our first mix completed with each of them. It says your coins have been mixed, and indeed we see the process move over to the remixing tab. So now these UTXOs can be remixed for free as many times as we want, right? And you'll see the kind of little loading icon here for a moment, and then eventually it will turn over and you'll be able to remix your UTXOs. And so, keep in mind that as we were discussing earlier, these will likely go a lot slower. Like it'll just take a lot of time for it could take a lot of time for your UTXO to get picked up. So as you can see, this registered input step, it may just hang on that for a while. It's totally random how the mixer picks his UTXOs across different users. And so you'll just kind of have to be patient, but there you have it. So you get free remixes as much as you want. So now that we've got at least a mix down, let's explore the different ways that we can spend our mixed sats. The bottom right Whirlpool little blue icon is one way, and so you get this menu that says Mix UTXOs or Spend Mixed UTXOs, and this brings you to that interface. Another way, if we go all the way back, I just want to show you the different ways to do this. Of course, you can get to the Whirlpool option right from the start from the bottom right, or in the top left, you can hit this Samourai icon and get to your post-mix wallet. So a couple different ways to get to what you want to do. You can select and click on the overall balance and click into individual UTXOs and spend individual UTXOs as I just showed. So that's, again, one path if you want to pick specific UTXOs to spend. But honestly, the recommended approach is to go here at the bottom right and hit send, which is going to unlock the full capabilities of the post-mix spending tools. So let's pretend like we want to send some of our mixed sats. We can hit the icon in the top right and scan a QR code. So I'm just sort of pulling in a address that I would like to send to. We can make this for 50,000 sats, let's say. And so now let's just go to review transaction. And you'll see that, of course, I can change the transaction priority, but the key piece here is this stonewall protection that you see at the bottom. And it also gives us this little measure of transaction entropy. So it's kind of like a privacy score. What Stonewall is doing is it's attempting to create a phony sort of CoinJoin transaction using your UTXOs. So you're kind of like combining your own UTXOs to create this phony CoinJoin transaction. Now, if I come back and change the sats amount to 100,000 sats, you'll see that it's no longer available. And that is because of the way that it needs to create a certain number of outputs that allows it to do what it's doing. I will link some documentation in the description down below so you can look through kind of the exact specs for this. But just keep in mind that as a general best practice, you would typically want to be spending less than half of the balance of your selected UTXOs for this to work properly. Let's look at some other options. Ricochet is the next one, and Ricochet is really, really cool. This would be if you're sending sats to a centralized KYC exchange or something similar. And what Ricochet does is it basically adds different steps between you sending this and the exchange receiving it. And that is simply so that the exchange, they'll often look like one step back of the transactions coming in. And so they won't be able to look back and say, oh, wait a second, these are mixed coins, because there has been issues with that in the past. Now, if we go back and go to Cahoots, we get the final couple of options. We see Stonewall X2, which is instead of creating your own phony CoinJoin transaction, you're actually partnering up with someone else to do exactly that. And you can see the different options here. They do have a premium option with where they provide kind of the counterparty. But you can also click the in-person or online and choose a paynim as your collaborator. Now, this is throwing an error because I don't have any, I don't have any friends yet, right, in my paynims. But that's really, really cool. So you can kind of submit a request to a friend to, go in cahoots with you and make this a privacy protected transaction. So that is the difference between Stonewall X2 and the normal Stonewall, which I think is just a general, best practice if you're doing it solo. If we come back and go to Stowaway, Stowaway is really interesting because it's using something called Soroban, which is a communication protocol that Samourai Wallet has built to basically allow you to directly communicate to another paynim. So you'll see the same options here. So I could basically send to directly to another paynim without revealing my address at any point in time, anywhere. So very, very cool, really powerful set of tools. Now, let's just go ahead with the normal Stonewall transaction here, right? This was what we were doing at the very beginning. And so we can see our kind of privacy score with the transaction entropy. And if we say send, we'll get a confirmation here, and then it will go ahead and create, sign, and broadcast the transaction. So I know I went through that super, super quick. I would say as a best practice, any time that you can use Stonewall is a good thing, and indeed it is on by default. And then you have some of these other add-ons that you can use for specific use cases, as we discussed, and as I will link you some documentation below. Now, in this menu at the top, this is where you would go to listen for requests from other friends if they're trying to do a cahoots kind of transaction with you. But there you have it, my friends. I know that was packed, action-packed, but amazing set of tools here. And to properly kind of exit out of the app, you'd want to just hit the sort of caret here and exit. Let's go ahead and wrap the video up. All right, my friends, there you have it. I told you this was going to be a beast of a video, and I think this met the criteria there. Just as a quick recap, we went through Samourai Wallet. It's kind of different features and functionality. We went through the setup process. We took a look at paynims, Whirlpool, post-mix spending tools, and guys, my conclusion, there is absolutely nothing else even remotely close to this in a mobile realm. And I would probably go so far as to saying any Bitcoin wallet in terms of, the full suite of privacy preserving techniques and tools that are built in. The only thing that comes remotely close is Wasabi. Now again, Wasabi Wallet 2.0 is hopefully coming soon, and I am extremely excited for that as well. It's great for us as users that there's this great competition between these two amazing teams. But that is my conclusion for now. I'm curious to hear what you think. Leave me your thoughts, questions in the comments down below. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave this here. I hope you found this valuable and useful. If you did, you already know what to do. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, friends, we are only going to see more and more surveillance. And so I hope, if nothing else, this has encouraged you to really think critically about your privacy setup when it comes to Bitcoin. Vast majority of folks maybe are never going to get on this sort of level, but that does not have to be you, my friend. And it's really not that difficult. Don't stress, take your time, and make incremental baby steps towards a superior privacy setup. But we'll go ahead and leave this here. As a reminder, my friends, every sat counts, especially if you've mixed it through Whirlpool. And until next time, I'll see you then.